Mahershala Ali, a grown black man, teach Alex Hibbert, a young black boy, how to swim as a storm is coming in the Atlantic Ocean. African Americans in the Atlantic Ocean is always a very powerful image.
Yeah.
And here's this grown man teaching this boy how to sustain himself.
With the shore not in sight.
With the shore not in sight.
Moonlight could have come out last year, it could have come out next year, but it's out now at this particular moment for America and at this particular moment for all of us. So is that just me, or does that seem like an interesting coincidence?
Yeah, no, it's something I've had to think about quite a bit because, I went 8 years between making films, and, I could have gone 9 years, I could have gone 10 years, but for whatever reason, the film just happened at this moment in time. And it's interesting because the movie was built under a completely different regime, I will say. I didn't feel that it was a regime before. I certainly feel like it's a regime now. But it was built in what we call a safe space, I felt that I had the freedom to tell this story in that safe space. And now it's arrived in a moment, literally opened in the States underneath one president, and it's continued for much longer underneath a different president. I think the currency of what the film means to people has completely shifted. So, yeah, I think it, in some ways, it has been fated that the movie exists in this present moment.
Sure. I mean, Tarell, back at the other end of the process, when you first started writing the play, I want to kind of dig into that a little bit and also find out why you put it to one side. Did it always feel maybe more cinematic than theatrical to you?
Absolutely. It was always meant to be a film. I kind of described it earlier, and I think I'm getting to something where I don't, sort of blumble or blubber around till I get to the kind of definition of what it meant to make it. But it was an art form or medium that I wasn't trained in. I'd been in the theater all my life. I knew what it was like to be on stage and how to craft that. I had no idea how you crafted a script. So I read a couple scripts and I was like, cool, this world that I'm trying to talk about, these memories, I'm trying to put them down for me. And the way they keep coming to me is in this filmic way, so I'm just gonna put them down the best way I can. And and putting it to the side had less to do with it being ready or commercially viable. It was more to do with, okay, I've put it somewhere. It's somewhere safe, it's written. So I can kind of I have it somewhere. And then stupidly, I had enough time to kind of forget just how intimate it was. Right? I was like, oh, I forgot that was my diary for a little bit. And by the time Barry had gotten to it, I was like, oh yeah, it's personal, it's intimate, it's about 2/3 of my life. Here, have it. Yeah. Yeah. That feeling of inevitable started really happening once we started. It's happening now even more so because when we look back at how that script got to Barry, things just started popping up. Like Barry got the script on my birthday 3 years ago.
Literally on his birthday. We figured this out the last time we spoke together in Miami. A mutual friend of ours pulled up emails, and the date stamp on the email was Tarell's birthday in 2011, which I did not remember at all.
Yeah. And things like that just they started shooting on my birthday, and when they started filming, there were things that just kept happening like that felt like faded. And then for it to come out now and to be in the world now and to be providing a kind of sustenance in a way. And particularly because of this, Barry was very attuned to the heartbreak that I was in. I don't know if a lot of you know, but I was 22 when I wrote the original script, and my mother had just died of AIDS-related complications after suffering for about 10 years. And I kind of went into a complete, well, not just that. I don't tell this part often, so you'll be the first to hear. But I'd applied to the Yale School of Drama, and I'd gotten in under another head of the department, but that head of the department went away. So went away my acceptance to the school, so I had to reapply. And I also was cast in a play with Peter Brook, but the theater and Peter Brook got into something, and that went away, so I had nothing. My mother had just died. I had no school to go to, no job to go to, and I was just sort of stuck in a way. So I sort of created this thing, and it was full of pain. It was full of me trying to recount how I got to this painful moment, how I got to this guilty moment. And Barry was really astute. He's like, look, I want all of that pain, but I need people to see that you got out of it. I need people to see that at some point you became somebody. So that's, in the film, there is great pain, but he's so smart, and he was like, but I need them to see that you became a man, you became a person. Anyway, so that's a great testament to his artistry. He understood that intuitively.
I mean, you mentioned that it's been a long gap since Medicine for Melancholy, which was the film you made in 2008, which is this incredibly intelligent, kind of tender movie. And I think at that point, a lot of people, I mean, it played at London Film Festival, so people who may have seen it, and people thought, okay, Barry Jenkins is obviously, he's the name for the future. And then you kind of go off and I guess life takes over for a while. And I wonder what it is about this idea where you thought, okay, maybe this is the film that I have to make this.
You know, it's funny. I was terrified of making this film initially. You know, if you read anything about this movie, you will read that Barry Jenkins is straight and Tarell McCraney is gay. And I had this barrier where I thought, oh, can a straight man tell this story? Because I believe there are certain narratives that they can be told without a first-person perspective or a first-person experience, but to maximize the potential, the possibility of the feeling, you need a first-person perspective. And I didn't have that for certain elements of this film. So I was terrified when I initially read it. But it was about taking ownership of the piece. I wasn't sure if I could fully do that. But our lives are so damn similar. I mean, down to the T. And I thought, if I can't empathize with this character, then I'm saying something fundamentally fucked up about sexuality and what it means for humanity versus inhumanity. And I was like, I just can't abide by that. So I'm going to take ownership of this piece, fall in love with this character, and place myself within his being. And so I did that, and we got on with it. Before that, I worked on a lot of little things that just didn't work out for whatever reason, but I'm glad you mentioned Medicine, because one of the co-producers on the film, this guy Andrew Havia, went to high school with Tarell, and Andrew just happened to be in San Francisco on the first day of shooting for Medicine for Melancholy, and he was pissed. He was like, why is a Miami guy making a movie about San Francisco? I got to get this guy back to Miami to make something. And so for like 5 or 6 years, he kept hitting this guy up, going, what do you have that's visual in Miami that nobody's heard of? And he told him about this thing he had written in 2003 called In Moonlight, Black Boys Look Blue. And that's how the whole thing came together.
I mean, Tarell, from your side, were you ever tempted to kind of to write the screenplay yourself, or was it a conscious decision to think, actually, you know what, I have to walk away from this and let someone else have their turn with the material?
There are moments where, you know, people, you know, I'm one of those people, especially with work, who if you ask me about it, I'm sometimes too transparent about work that I do and try and ways to explore it. I come from the theater, which is very collaborative. So anytime someone wants to collaborate, I'm always like down to at least, you know, have a cup of tea about it, right? But and so there have been moments that someone came to me and said, hey, do you have a film? You know, your plays are really good. We've been reading your plays. Do you have a film? And I said, well, you could read this. I think this is a film. I think this is where it belongs. But they would do strange things to it. They would say things like, oh, this is great. We're going to shoot it in Chicago. And I'd be like, you know, or I remember one time somebody was like, yeah, let's just, they wanted to extend it so it ended up being like this Hamlet version of it. Yeah, girl, it got bad. It got bad. Like they wanted to like extend it so that there was like a revenge thing happening, and it was like, nah, B, just chill. So when Barry came, none of that was the conversation, and he had such a lexicon, a vocabulary of where we were then and where we are now. That's why I feel like the film, you know, feels timeless in a way, in that, you know, it locates in a specific time in our lives, but it also looks very much like Miami now. And I think, and because of that, that felt so right. That felt rich. It felt important. It felt, you know, unpackable. It felt like we could take this apart for years. And that's always what's interesting to me. I never want to make something that feels so finite that we can only do at that point and that's it. I want to make something that feels like we started from a specific place, but we can keep unpacking it for years to come. And that's what he presented in a way that, you know, was immediate and succinct. So I was like, yeah, go ahead.
I wonder on set, or even during the writing process, actually, how much conferring there was between the two of you, or again, was it a question of, okay, once Barry's shooting on set, Barry's shooting on set? Were you talking?
Once he got to the script, like once he sent me the script that he'd written in 10 days in a place we won't name. and I read it, and I was really excited about it. And I sort of sent him back some thoughts about it, mostly them being like, yeah, this is it. And after that, he it was off to figure out, how to find the funding to shoot it, which I didn't know anything about, so he definitely couldn't ask me about that. I was like, I got a couple dollars I can give you in the meantime. But mostly it was him figuring out how, doing the pre-production and getting there. And once they were in town, I came by twice, but I really didn't want.
Tarell's apartment was literally like 3 blocks from our production office.
It's
So
actually
I
on
would
the same
see him
block.
all the time walking by my office window, but I couldn't get him to come inside, I was like, bro, come over here.
Nah,
But he was like, nah, you guys just do what you do.
You got it. You had it.
I mean, the film's filled with these fearless decisions which feel fearless. Most obvious one, I guess, being having 3 boys, 3 inexperienced actors playing the same character, and they're not cast on the grounds of physical resemblance as a more kind of emotional thread. But I wonder, when you're there on set, how fearless you felt, or was there a moment of blind panic and actually thinking, you know what, I need to be somewhere else?
No, I felt pretty. because the budget was so small. It's a movie made for $1.5 million US in 25 days. So it's a very the stakes, the actual fiscal stakes were a bit low, I would say. I think with that comes this large degree of freedom. So fearless implies that we were very brave and with our shirt off and shit making the movie, but it wasn't quite that.
You didn't do that?
No, I didn't do that. I didn't do that. But I remember when Trevante Rhodes showed up, who plays Black in the 3rd chapter. We had cast him, and we didn't audition 80 muscle-bound dudes. Just a muscle-bound dude came in, and he had the goods, and so he changed my conception of what the character was. But I remember, it was fear initially, but then I was like, oh shit, you're doing the right thing. Because his first 2 days on set, because of the way the schedule worked out, was just him alone in the apartment and his boxers working out. And I will say, there were all these women on set, and a few men in certain departments who also, but anyway. And so the whole movie, nobody's at Video Village. And then finally, at the end of week 4, Trevante shows up and everybody's at Video Village. I can't get anybody's attention. And I actually had a moment of panic because of the jarring nature of his physicality and how much it was drawing the gaze towards that. I had the gaze, G-A-Z-E, the gaze. The gaze.
Let's just take a moment.
Thank you.
No.
Thank you.
That's what I'm here for.
Because of that, I had a very brief moment of panic where I thought, shit, did I make the right choice? And then I remembered the casting process where he came in and right away I said, this is wrong. This is wrong. A dude that hypermasculine cannot be my character. And then he auditioned, and I saw this well of vulnerability and sensitivity. But then on set, because of the way the schedule broke down, everything he was doing was hypermasculine. It's like him working out. It's like him on the phone, him telling homeboy the count is off. And then we got to the phone call. I mean, a lot of stuff with this movie was very method. None of the actors rehearsed. We just couldn't afford rehearsal time. None of the actors met before they shot their initial scenes. And the first challenging scene we did with Trevante was the phone call. And that's just one actor in a room on a bed with no shirt on with a cell phone to his ear. But it's actually Andre Holland's voice on the other end of the line. When you're making films, typically you don't get to do that. It's the AD sitting off camera or the script supervisor reading the other side of the scene. But we actually got Andre to call in. And the first time Trevante is hearing Andre's voice is over that phone. And Andre Holland is a very good actor. He can act with his toe, he can act with his pinky, he can act with his voice. And he was wooing the shit out of Trevante. And I just saw that same thing in the audition where this exterior was very hard, everything else was just like goo. He was just like melting. And I was like, okay, shit, that's why he got the part. Okay, the fear is gone. Now we're gonna do this. So that was the only time I panicked.
Okay.
But nobody saw me panic. But inside, I was like,
But now you're admitting you panicked.
yeah. I mean,
Cat's out of
we
bag.
at the end now, so I can talk about this. Yeah.
I'm aware that people have questions. I'm going to ask one more question. I mean, Moonlight's the kind of film where you could ask about every single scene in it and kind of unpick that. I want to ask about the ocean scene and when Mahershala Ali is teaching Alex Hibbert, the young boy, so Juan and Little, teaching him to swim. I mean, how does that scene, because that scene feels so magical to me, and it's a scene, on the face of it, very simple, a grown man teaching a boy to swim, and yet there's something else going on there. So how does that happen?
Yeah, you know, that comes back to this idea of, I guess, fearlessness. You know, we thought we'd have 6 hours to film that scene, and when you're making a movie at this budget on this schedule, you don't have cover sets. You know, if you show up to shoot and it's raining, you go to the stage or you go inside a house. You know, you have another scene you can shoot. There's always a secondary scene if you're exposed, shooting an exterior sequence. This film, we didn't have that luxury, so no matter what happened on the day, we had to shoot the scene. And we got there, and this storm system was coming in. It's 2017. You can get on your phone and look and see the weather coming in. And I was like, oh shit, we don't have 6 hours to choreograph this moment. But again, I tried to be very method with everything in this film. So Alex Hibbert, just like me, despite growing up in Miami, does not know how to swim. And so we told his mom, don't teach him how to swim. We'll have lifeguards. We will teach him how to swim. We promise. And so we get there, and if you see an image of the film, the camera, Alex Hibbert's head is halfway in, halfway out of the water for most of the sequence. The camera is also halfway in, halfway out of the water, and Alex Hibbert does not know how to swim. So once I'm down to 90 minutes, I go, the camera's gonna do this thing, halfway in, halfway out. Mahershala Ali, now it's a baptism. I never tell this to an actor, but the scene is a baptism. Now please teach Alex Hibbert how to swim. And so what you guys are watching when you see that sequence is Mahershala Ali, a grown black man, teach Alex Hibbert, a young black boy, how to swim as a storm is coming in the Atlantic Ocean. African Americans in the Atlantic Ocean is always a very powerful image.
Yeah.
And here's this grown man teaching this boy how to sustain himself.
With the shore not in sight.
With the shore not in sight. And at the end of the sequence, he now knows how to swim, and he fucking swims off, not towards land, but out into the abyss, into the storm. I can't do anything but embrace that when it happens. But that's where, instead of panicking, it's like, okay, well, shit, here's what, I got this control, that control. You mix it all up and just whoosh, throw it out there.